Welcome to Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're getting stuck into some really debated moments from recent rugby.
Absolutely. We're leaning on the insights of, well, one of the best, Nigel Owens.
Exactly. We're looking at two, let's say, controversial tries from that Wallabies versus Lions second test. Colin Newbolt covered it well back on July 31st, 2025.
Yeah, those moments definitely had people talking.
So our goal today is really to pull out what Owens thought. Why were these calls so tricky?
And how do refs make those split-second decisions? It's fascinating stuff.
We want to help you understand, maybe, a bit more about what goes on behind the whistle.
Get inside the ref's head, so to speak.
Before we dive in, though, just a quick reminder, if you enjoy getting this kind of deep dive, this insider look,
Then definitely subscribe to Rugby Obsession.
yep, wherever you get your deep dives, it's the best way to stay in the loop.
For sure.
Okay, let's kick off that first big one, the Lions opening try, Dan Sheehan.
Ah, yes. The dive over the top.
He goes airborne over a couple of Wallaby tacklers, grounds the ball. Instantly, flags go up, metaphorically speaking. Why was this one so, contentious?
Well, Nigel Owens himself on Whistle Watch, he put it plainly. This really is a tricky one.
Right.
He basically said, look, you could probably justify calling it either way,
Either way, how so?
as long as your reasoning holds up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you explain why you made the call, you could argue you're correct, which tells you a lot about the situation itself.
It speaks volumes about the ambiguity, doesn't it? Because there is a specific law involved here about going airborne.
There is, yeah.
We see players dive for the corner all the time, no problem. So
Right.
what made Sheehan's situation different?
That's the absolute core of it. There was that law change, remember, back in 2022.
Ah, okay.
It specifically targeted jumping just to avoid a tackle because it's dangerous play, both for the jumper and potentially the tackler.
Right, dangerous play.
Owens even mentioned another example, Blair Murray for Wales against Scotland. Same ref, actually.
Oh, interesting.
And in that case, Murray jumped to avoid a tackle out in the field. The ref correctly penalized it. Clear evasion, not scoring.
Okay, so intent matters hugely. If you jump only to dodge a tackle, that's a no-go.
Correct.
But diving as part of the act of scoring is okay. That feels like a very fine line for a referee to judge.
It is an incredibly fine line, and that's the challenge. Diving for the corner. Perfectly normal, legal way to score.
We see it every weekend.
Exactly. You are allowed to be airborne when you're trying to score. The key is your actions can't be dangerous or illegal in themselves. So no shoulder barges, obviously.
And no jumping over someone just to avoid them tackling you.
Precisely. And here's something people often forget. Even if the attacker is airborne scoring, the defender can still legally tackle them.
Ah, good point. The contest isn't over just because they're off the ground.
Not at all. Gravity exists.
Okay, so back to Sheehan. This is where it gets really complex, right?
Yeah.
Because his dive wasn't a typical corner flag dive.
No, it was much more central, straight into traffic, almost.
So the big question, the one Owens pointed out, is Sheehan jumping first to avoid the tackles, making the score almost secondary?
Or is he going airborne because he's stretching, reaching, making that final lunge to ground the ball, making the airborne part just a consequence of the scoring attempt?
That's the million-dollar question for the officials.
It really is. It's an interpretive tightrope. If they felt his primary action was the jump to avoid, then under that 2022 clarification, it should have been a penalty. Simple as that.
But if they felt he was airborne because he was focused on scoring?
Then it's a legitimate try, which is what the on-field officials, with the TMO's help, decided.
Wow. Judging intent in a fraction of a second.
It's immense pressure. You're not just seeing what happens, you're trying to understand why it happened.
Incredible mental gymnastics needed there.
Okay, let's shift gears. From players flying through the air to the referee potentially getting in the way. Jake Gordon's try. Yes, another moment that sparked a lot of debate.
Gordon makes a break, darts through. But it looked like the referee, Andrea Piardi, might have blocked Andrew Porter, the Lions prop.
It certainly looked like Piardi was in Porter's path, yeah.
So what's the law say about that? When the ref gets tangled up in the play?
Well, this brings up another really specific part of the rule book. The law is quite clear. If the referee gets in the way, but the ball doesn't touch them,
Okay.
then it's play on. Simple as that.
Play on, even if they block a player.
Even if they get in the way. Now, if the ball hits the referee, play stops. Scrum to the team that had possession.
Right. And in the Gordon try, the ball didn't touch Piardi.
Correct. No contact between ball and referee. So, strictly by the letter of that law, the call had to be play on.
Okay, so technically the right call based on the wording, but
Yeah.
did it feel right? Because watching it, Porter definitely seemed impeded.
And that's where Nigel Owens brings in this idea of, well, common sense.
Ah, the common sense factor.
Yeah. Owens actually said he didn't think Purity's position ultimately changed whether Gordon scored or not. That's his assessment as a former top ref.
So he didn't think it was material.
He didn't seem to think so in this specific instance. However, and this is the really key point Owens makes,
That one.
he strongly believes that even if the law says play on, if the referee clearly and obviously affected the play.
Like definitely stopped a tackle from happening.
Exactly. If their presence genuinely interfered with a player's ability to contest or make a tackle, then Owens argues the ref should blow the whistle, use common sense, stop play.
Even though the law, as written, doesn't strictly require it if the ball isn't touched?
Precisely.
Yeah.
He's advocating for applying a layer of, fairness or game understanding over the absolute letter of the law in those specific impactful situations.
That's a really interesting take. It's almost like saying the spirit of the law should sometimes override the literal text, but doesn't that open the door to more subjectivity, more inconsistency maybe?
Well, that's the eternal refereeing debate, isn't it? How much room is there for interpretation within the rules?
Finding that balance.
Owens has been pretty consistent on this. He brought up similar points about, say, clearouts, like the Jack Morgan incident he discussed before.
Yeah.
He wants refs to use their judgment, their practical understanding, to ensure the game feels fair.
So it's this tension between sticking rigidly to the rule book and intervening when something just looks, well, wrong or unfair because the ref got in the way.
Exactly. For Owens, it seems the impact on the game, the fairness aspect, can sometimes be more important than the strict technicality, especially if the outcome was clearly affected by the referee's position.
It just shows, again, how much pressure is on these officials. It's not just knowing laws, it's applying them with judgment.
Under intense scrutiny, in real time.
So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for us? For you listening, for fans, people learning about the game? These deep dives, they really show how complex officiating is, don't they?
They absolutely do. Even someone like Nigel Owens finds these calls difficult. It's not black and white.
It's about interpretation, intent, impact, all judged in milliseconds.
And understanding these nuances, I think, helps you appreciate the game more. You move past just yelling, good call or bad call.
Yeah, you start to see why it was maybe a tough call, or why there's even a debate happening.
It encourages a bit more critical thinking about rugby itself. You see the human element, the judgment calls within that framework of laws. It definitely adds another layer to watching.
And speaking of layers, if you are enjoying this kind of detailed look, exploring these fascinating bits of rugby, remember to hit subscribe on Rugby Obsession.
Yeah, keep these deep dives coming.
So what do you think about these situations? We've talked through Owens's perspective, the laws. Did you agree with the refs on the day?
Or do you lean more towards that common sense idea, especially with the referee interference? Where do you stand?
We'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts. What stood out to you?
Always good to get different perspectives.
Okay, so that pretty much wraps up our deep dive for today. We've looked at Dan Sheehan's try, that razor-thin line between diving to score and jumping to avoid.
And Jake Gordon's try the whole play on versus common sense debate when the ref gets involved.
It really is amazing how much goes into every single whistle, every decision on that field.
The level of detail and expertise is incredible.
And hopefully breaking it down helps appreciate that complexity. These moments really show that rugby isn't just about strength and speed.
It's about rules, interpretation, judgment, and yeah, that human factor too.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this Rugby Obsession deep dive.
Been a pleasure.
And we will look forward to you listening to our next episode.